Yeah, it's that damn thing.
I like the Rick and Morty stance. It's really funny.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
Okay, looks like we're live.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
Got it. Right, you guys are all set. Have a great night.
Thanks a lot.
Travels.
So, call this meeting to order. Start with the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Then the recommended action, approve the following items which are included in the consent agenda: 5A minutes, 6A spring coaches, 7A 2023-2024 calendar, 7B small claims tax assessment, 7C CEWW resolution for ESY, 7E Board of Education calendar and budget calendar reapproval, and 7F athletic merger, and 7H special education. Do I have a motion? Yes.
So moved.
Thank you, Joan. Thank you, Ron.
Um,
Second.
I would like to pull 7C. I have a question.
Sure.
Yes, I'm gonna make it so that it's votable, then you guys will have to refresh out. You're talking about the extended school year resolution?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Fresh out.
Yep. All right, so you have to vote, and so I put in there, remove 7C. Oops. Uh, 5 yes.
Okay, next up is for the good of the cause. Do we have any emails?
You do not.
Is there anyone? Oh, did they go?
I think they did. I don't think that anybody else is on. Tim, you don't see anybody else on, do you?
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know who that is.
Well, if you are there, speak now. Forever hold your peace. Okay. Information for the public. We haven't had a public comment for a while, so there's that. Other than running for school board and a petition for Board of Education members.
Okay.
So, we should look at that. Who's interested?
Start recruiting.
3 positions open.
Right. Doug, Dan, Joe.
What's the number of voters again, Karen?
What's that?
For petition, what's the minimum number of signatures?
25.
25. Okay.
25 qualified.
Oh, there we go.
All right, so next up is budget performance report. Take it away, Dan.
Okay, you have 3 documents you were provided: a budget comparison, cafeteria budget comparison, and the budget performance reports. 2 out of the 3 you generally see. So if you look at the budget performance update, it's a slightly different format than what I typically give you. Basically, you just get, generally speaking, you get usually the first table that you see, the summary in the 1 page. I just decided to add the other things just for more of the graphics. So when you look at that in terms of the month of January, revenue is up, expenditures are down, not by a lot either way. Fiscal to date, 81 in terms of our revenue, 85.1% compared to 87.5%. So that's unfavorable when you look at revenue. A lot of times revenue is all hiding, as I typically say. when I looked in terms of what we're projecting for state aid, we're still projecting an additional like 1.7 billion in state aid coming by the end of the school year into early summer. But that's difficult. When you look at expenditures, 54% compared to 51%, that is considered unfavorable at this time by about $5,000. That's kind of a wash. The graphs is kind of show you the trend, taking that information month over month and basically just showing you the bar graph to revenue, and the bottom line is the general expense. And you can see, and if you look back, this is true. We have been trending upward for expenses, actual expenses versus our trend amount over the last few months when it comes to expenses. And that's just a visual representation of what we've been talking about since the beginning of the school year. We're about 6 months in, so this is a good way to kind of show it at that moment in time, about half a year in. Right now, we are still projecting a difference of about 700,000. I think last month it was like 900,000. That fluctuates. One key projection, when you look at it, that we haven't seen in previous years. So this is kind of new. I'm not too worried about it. If you look at our total expenditure projected 20.916 versus our annual. That's a first for us in terms of we're projecting more in terms of expenditures than we've actually budgeted. But as I said, I'm not too worried about that because usually at the end of the year, I do a number of things that we federal money that we get through title grants and all that. At the end of the year, I actually turn that into expense that drives our expenses down because that money is coming in. We spend it out of our special aid fund, or we get it in our special aid fund, and then that money gets moved over into our general fund. So it will actually show a lower expense than what is there. But we do that every year. That covers the title things, Title I, Title II, things that we expense through these federal grants. We kind of write off at the end of the year. Total expense. What is not being factored in yet, sort of some ARP expenditures. Again, that's like I say, I'm not too worried about seeing that. It's the first. Questions on this chart? The next one, the budget comparison. You have been seeing this the last couple of months. So the first one is a graph. It basically shows you as of February 16th. It's more of a real time. I'm going to show you that rather than showing you end of the month. This is also up to. So that shows you a little more up-to-date trend in terms of salaries and did add professional developments meeting, so I did add that. One thing about that column is that figure is a standalone. It's that amount actually would come under the contractual and BOCES amount. I just showed it as a standalone, but it's not like in addition to. It's all part of that. So if you were to add it all up, you'd say, well, geez, what? The money doesn't add up.
Okay, you just pulled it up.
Yeah, that's because it's a standalone. I just wanted to show that one, thing again. I could pull out any, if you wanted technology, if you wanted, with salaries, I could break it up by bargaining unit, whatever you guys want. But we're still, we're trending about $892,000 difference from last year. That's kind of the way it's been the last few months. We're not seeing anything unusual here in terms of all of these things. The other pages on this is the breakdown. It kind of shows you the account codes, whether it's expenses and then revenue as well. So I'm not going to go into the details about each one of these. I was more for information to kind of see where it is. And you can look through this and say, oh, here's our real property tax, here's our real estate aid, there's lottery aid, there's our Medicaid assistance for revenue purposes. And then the third page, it's our ST3 format, so it's not every single code. This is basically how we would report it to the states. You roll it up into the codes they want. But you can look through and say, okay, here's the Board of Education, here is our unallocated insurance. I'm just kind of scrolling through that. So again, that's more for your information, seeing it. I'd be more than happy if you saw something here that, oh, why? I'd be more than happy to entertain any questions on any specific lines like that. Questions on this? And then the third one is the cafeteria. I thought this was a good time to kind of share that. It's not something I generally do share, and I figured it's a nice 6-month look at our cafeteria expenses. The cafeteria fund is technically separate. It's supposed to operate as a self-funding. It's separate from it. It's not part of the budgeting process. But to the extent that we have budgeted $215,000 to help offset cafeteria expenses so that we can provide free meals to all students. So I thought this was a good comparison. When you look at last year, as of February 16th, our expenses were $194,000, our revenue at $170,000, only a difference of $23,000. Current year, our expenses are $56,000 more than last year. Our revenue is considerably lower than last year, of about $66,000. So when you look at that, in terms of it, we're really trending, about $123,000 difference from last year at this time, revenue versus expenses.
Why such a big variance between revenue when you know that?
Last year, all meals were being reimbursed. We're back to the normal of only free and reduced lunches being reimbursed. That really is the big driving force, is that. And we knew when a year ago when we talked about this in terms of budgeting for it, and we're deciding, I think, summertime to continue covering all meals. That was discussed, that we will see a drop off in state and federal revenue because we're not getting all of our meals reimbursed. So that, shows the difference there. When you're looking at it, that $123,000 difference, that's still within our budgeted amount, but we're only 6 months in. So conceivably that amount can go higher because you can see at this point, we've only generated about $100,000 in revenue, and that's from those that are buying the meals, adults or second meals versus our reimbursements. We have received some additional revenue. Federal government's had another, basically they call it supply chain grants. So we got $28,000 with supply chain issues. So that's additional revenue that wasn't budgeted for that as well. So, questions on the cafeteria plan? I've said this here from the day one, they are covering it, is this, but most likely we are going to exceed our $215,000 budgeted allocation to help offset it. But in the end, the board made that decision in July, understood that and moved forward with it as well. So. Let's hope that in the governor's, in the budgets come April 1st, that's funding, for all meals is included, not just free and reduced. It wasn't part of the governor's executive proposal, but there is a growing push at the legislative level. We'll see. Questions on any of the budget information?
With the trends and things being more expensive and just increase in expenses, do you foresee need to tweak the budget more so than we have than what you presented?
Some areas, yes, here's a perfect example. So when they first presented the proposed budgets for next year, I did mention that the bus leases was still a question mark because I was waiting on some numbers. All those numbers have come in, and if we are still planning on 3 leases, a full size, a medium, and a small, it's a sizable increase. It's about a $60,000 increase from what I budgeted. If we go with all 3 buses. I think in the first version of the budget, budgeted $235,000. All 3 buses that would push that up to 200. So we're talking really about. We had this conversation. Into one pickup and drop off in the morning versus, 1 for each building. We're running 6 buses, once in the morning, once in the afternoon. And then if we have sports trips out, conceivably we could go from a fleet of 12 down to a fleet of 10. Not to cancel, both out this year, but they're talking about maybe we eliminate 1 big bus this year, give it small and medium for flexibility. And then next year, rather than going with 2 big buses, we go with 1 big bus, reducing their fleet over 2 years to 10 as opposed to 12, because we do typically have buses sitting. We have a spare bus right now. We're still waiting on our 2 new buses from this year. We have maybe next month. But we have a spare bus that we've gotten from New York Bus Sales, and it's really just sitting there. It's not being used. So we conceivably, can eliminate a 66 passenger bus and not have any impact whatsoever and save some money. But that would increase that line from 235 to like 259. So that will also change our tax levy because we can use that as an exclusion. So I have factored that in as well, and that would be an additional $35,000 that we could add on to the tax levy to bring the tax levy from 2.77% to 2.9 some percent. But the proposed budget would go from 3.91% to 4.4%. I just adding that amount to cover those buckets.
Treasury report.
Treasury report, it is still looking the way it typically has been the last few months. Operating funds, it's a negative $95,000. Like that's small. We keep most of our money in the cash sweep, and then we pull it out when we pay our bills, and that's what we always like to keep the operating fund at limited amounts. You can see our restricted accounts there, the EBLAR, tax sorcery, unemployment reserve. Those are all subject restricted accounts. Cash receipts, cash disbursements. We're at that time where we had $2 million go out. We only brought in $356,000. But that's not unusual. So before, most of our revenue comes in the beginning of the school year, and we just kind of pluck away at our cash throughout the year while we pay our bills. Sitting at still available cash at the end of January, a little over $16 million. You can see that we generated $26,000 more in interest. I think we're sitting at, if you look at the previous document with revenue, thus far we have brought in about $68,000 in interest for the first half of the year. The last few months we would have taken a big hit. So I actually factored that in to looking at for next year's budget, that the rates are probably going to stay high, that we probably budget a little more in interest on this than what has been budgeted for around $20,000. All said, we are still in a very healthy position for cash in our banks. We're paying our bills on time, and there's money there so that we don't have to worry about the running shorts. questions on the treasury reports?
Assuming the two big checks are good friends.
You are correct in that. Absolutely. And, you know, it's proceeds or but in reality, these were done at the end of January. If you look, January 26th. So typically that's when we make our payments. It's our second warrant month, which is generally the last part of the last week of every month. And that's why that is there. Not that they have no checks. We don't pay them at the beginning of the month, we pay them at the end.
I mean, that's good. I mean, you wrote me a $250,000 check. I had cash that's under.
Yeah, gotta go through the mail, you know, and they get it and they gotta process it and all that.
Sorry, I'm having some difficulty hearing you, Dan. Can you hear me? All right, I will give my report, but I'm having some difficulty hearing you. That's all good, as long as you can hear me.
Is that better?
Much better, thank you. Excellent. Yeah, so superintendent's report, quite a bit to cover here. I'll start with athletics. We're in postseason time now. Most of the postseason contests are going to take place this week, assuming, of course, that the weather does not throw a hitch in things, which the forecast for Wednesday through Friday does look a bit problematic. But as of now, the boys basketball team is slated to be in Newcomb for a game at 6 o'clock on Wednesday. The girls team is slated for a game against Shazy at 6 o'clock on Thursday. We have boys hockey facing off against Saranac Central on Thursday at 7 o'clock. And on Monday and Tuesday of next week, we have the skiing state championship at Bristol Mountain. So looking forward to seeing how our athletes do in those postseason contests. And before you know it, spring sports will be starting on March 13th. So the winter of continuation continues here for us. At the middle high school, there's quite a bit of things ensuing. There's preparations ongoing for the Winter Carnival. The 80th annual Winter Carnival will take place, and the Archbishop this year will be Miss Cora Clark. And the students are in the process of picking who will be on the senior court for King and Queen. All students have been included in the selection process, which is a bit of a development for the district, but is in keeping with our inclusivity policy. So I'm very pleased to see that all of our students are having a say in that selection process. The theme for this year's Winter Carnival is seasons, and there's plenty of activities that are happening. There's a cooking contest, puzzle competition, curling, bowling, and the traditional regalia of this, our 80th Winter Carnival. So excited to see that all unfold. And while the high school is celebrating Winter Carnival, the middle school students will be following another tradition and will be skiing at Mount Van Hovenberg and at Whiteface. And we appreciate the assistance of ORTA for assisting us in having our students participate on both of those mountains. The DC trip, part 3 of this year is preparing to go underway. The 10th graders will be departing in late March, and there is a parent meeting for this trip for 10th grade parents this Thursday at 6 in the cafeteria. So we're excited for this final trip to take place and to catch all of our students up on the backlog that was part of COVID. So excited for that. The next Woods trip is scheduled for our students. The last one taking place just a few weeks ago. We have a new group, March 25th through 28th, that will be going. 14 senior girls will be going out. And this time our staff representative will be Miss Casey Kyler. She will be the teacher in addition to Carolyn Walton and the Woods team. So we're excited to have the second trip underway and the first for female students of the district. Prom is rapidly approaching as well as we start talking about spring sports. It will take place at the Whiteface Lodge on May 20th, and the theme for the prom is red carpet. The high school musical is slated to take place March 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. The board, I understand, was treated to an early sneak preview of The Addams Family by our students. So we're excited to see what they can do, and I'm sure it will be a great follow-up to last year's Little Mermaid, which was a wonderful success. There's a Broadway showcase being planned. The high school band and chorus are hosting a dinner and a show fundraiser. The Broadway showcase was a big hit last year, and it provides quite a bit of opportunities for students to share their talent. And that will take place on March 30th. Craft Fair is also being planned on March 25th. The junior class will be hosting this in the middle school gymnasium. There will be over 30 vendors sharing their talents. And at the middle school, continuation of working on the schedule is nearing its final phase. We'll be reporting back to our team for feedback and implementation. And our guidance counseling team is already starting the course selection process for next year. So things are moving rapidly towards the end of this year and the beginning of next year. Our director of facilities, Dave Mayberry, has worked over the last several months to reconstitute the old dark room and has made it his official office in the foyer of the middle high school, and is now planning on renovating the custodial break room at the middle high school as well. So we appreciate Dave's efforts, and I know the crew will as well. And 3 new boards are going to be installed outside the cafeteria, the gym foyer, and the main office. And they will provide digital signage for students and staff on different events that are occurring throughout the school day. In the elementary school, there's been quite a few things occurring and more to come. On the 16th of February, the 4th graders traveled to Mount Joe. And on the 17th, students traveled to the Olympic Training Center for rhythmic gymnastics presentations. Great pictures of those events, and looking forward to seeing what happens tomorrow when 4-H representatives come into 2nd grade classrooms for more of their presentations. At the district level, there are numerous trainings and offerings that are occurring. Jen Tuggy and Amy Gotham, both teachers at the middle high school, are beginning another round of TCIS training for our staff. At the conclusion of this training, we will have 6 additional staff members who are fully trained on trauma-informed practices for students. This is an ongoing effort that has really been beneficial for our students and our staff, and we're looking forward to the fruits of this effort from Jen and Amy. We have a staff wellness day planned for March 17th as part of our Superintendent's Day. This is the 2nd year that the district has been able to secure grant funds to cover the full cost of this, and it's a well-deserved day for our staff. Special thanks to the newly formed District Wellness Committee this year and their chairperson, Elizabeth Stratford, for their leadership in preparing for this initiative. Adult education classes are beginning in March and will involve painting, cooking, and dance classes. This is really the first foray into increasing access and opportunities to adult community members through our community schools program. So we're very excited. Thank you to our community schools coordinator, Keith Clark, for organizing this, and to our instructors, Sonia Franklin, Stevie Ray Reese, and Vicki Kirshner. And last but not least, our strategic plan task forces continue to work. They will be meeting throughout the month of March, focusing on creating goals and action steps centered on our 3 task force areas of academic excellence, innovation, and well-being. And that is my report.
Are there any questions for Tim?
Yes, Tim, the Broadway showcase, is that for are the funds for any specific activity or just general for the theater and music department?
I believe that they've been to assist with the cost of the New York City trip.
Thank you.
All right, no other questions. Next up is information for the board. You'll see some information and executive content there about a variety of topics. Please review that. And obviously, I think included in that section, I'll reiterate what's in the information for the public about getting those new board member information out to prospective potential board members. How about that? All right. All right, 5A was in consent agenda, as is 6A. We thank all of our coaches for the time that they commit to our students. Oh, speaking of which, did I hear that all of the winter teams were academic excellence recipients? Oh, right. That's probably where I read it, was in the agenda. Thanks, Dan. A little bit quicker than that. This is embarrassment, okay? Yeah, well, subconsciously, apparently. Anyway, okay. Moving on from that embarrassment. 7A is in consent, as is 7B. Brings us to 7C. Recommended action upon recommendation of the superintendent approve the attached resolution with regard to the Lake Placid Central School participating in the extended school year for summer school at CEWW. Do I have a motion?
Yes.
Thank you, Dan.
Second.
Joan beat you to it there.
Okay.
Joan, second. Thank you.
I have
Any
a
discussion?
question about this.
Go ahead.
In the second to last paragraph, it says, be it resolved that the Lake Placid Central School District intends to participate in the 2023 special education school age summer school and agrees to pay the actual CEWW BOCES costs for the 2022 summer school. So we're saying we'll pay for last year's? It says.
So I don't believe that we're in arrears. Dana, I'm sure you can confirm that. But this was a blanket resolution sent to all districts on behalf of CVES BOCES to ensure, I think they're looking for a little more uniformity and consistency in the expectations around payment and signing people up for summer programming and things like that. Do you have a different interpretation of this, Dana?
We typically pay for it. So when I get this resolutions, do we intend to participate? And then we pay, like, we still have not been billed.
Okay.
So that's probably right, as Tim said, it's probably a resolution they send out to all of their schools that use this and say, here you go, on an annual basis.
Right, and I think that the sentence before last said 2022 participating in, and that was supposed to be 2023, but this is the first time we've done it. We weren't sure. That's why we're doing it.
Okay, thank you.
All right, everyone will please vote.
Yes.
All right, 7D. Here's an hour into it. Recommendation upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approve the attached resolution regarding the recognition of scholar athletes. Whereas the New York State Public High School Athletic Association recognizes individual athletes and high school athletic teams for outstanding performance, both academically and athletically, by rewarding designation as scholar athletes and scholar athlete teams, respectively. And whereas Lake Placid High School athletic teams have received scholar athlete team awards and athletes have been designated as scholar athletes, meaning that the teams and individual students, respectively, have excelled both on the field and in the classroom. And whereas the Board of Education of the Lake Placid Central School District is proud of the accomplishments of these Lake Placid High School athletic teams and the students and wishes to recognize their academic and athletic accomplishments. Therefore, be it resolved, The Board of Education hereby expresses the congratulations to the following Lake Placid High School athletic teams, including individual team members, coaches, for being recipients of Scholar Athlete Team Awards. Girls Varsity Alpine, the 96.7 average. Girls Nordic Skiing with a 98.51 average. Boys Nordic Skiing with a 96.45 average. Girls Varsity Basketball with a 93.25 average. Boys Varsity Basketball with a 93.01 average. Boys Varsity Hockey with a 91.68 average, and Girls Varsity Hockey with a 91.75 average. And be it further resolved that the Board of Education hereby expresses its congratulations to Lake Placid High School student athletes for meeting the rigorous standards established to achieve Scholar Athlete status. Do I have a motion? Dan moves. Do I have a second?
Unanimous second.
Ron seconds it. There you go, Ron. Got on it.
This is great.
Joe,
Yes,
she
it
let you
is.
have it. Yes. I think that we are, this is an incredible achievement for our
Yes.
school, and I think that the teachers and coaches
Yep.
deserve and students, obviously. They did a lot of the work, most of the work there. But at least I hope they did the work. But that's no small undertaking. That's quite good. Very impressive.
It is very. Is there no boys alpine ski team?
I don't think so this year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Five yes.
All right, thank you very much, everyone, and thank you to our winter sports teams. Pressure's on spring sports. We'll see what they have. All right, 7E was in consent, as is 7F. G is a donation acceptance. Recommended action, whereas the Lake Placid Central Schools Board of Education policy number 6255, donations, gifts, and grants to the district allows for the superintendent of schools to accept on behalf of the board gifts and donations having a value of less than $1,500, whereas the monies that have been received in the total amount $3,000 from the Adirondack Foundation for the purpose of funding the following: Mike Pato's approach to high-frequency structures in the world language classroom. Now, therefore, be it resolved in accordance with policy 6255, the Board of Education hereby accepts a check from the Adirondack Foundation in the amounts of $3,000 for the project noted above. Do I have a motion?
Yes.
Thank you, Joan. A second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Douglas.
I assume we have a standard practice of thanking those that give to the school.
Yeah, well, that's why I wanted to pull it out of consent, was just to recognize the gift.
Excellent.
And we do thank them for their contributions to the
Very much.
lives of our students.
Five yes.
Very much, everyone. 7H is in consent. That brings us to linking goals with agenda items. I think we didn't have much that was outside of consent there, but I do think that it's clear that our winter sports athletes, coaches, and teachers involved with those students put them first and let them excel. Not to mention that they also had very successful sporting seasons. So. And if you have any additional ones, please send them to Karen. All right, second, for the good of the cause, do we have any emails or people that
Nope.
jumped on? No. 10A, next meeting date and location, March 7th, 6 p.m. Don't forget, we have a budget work session on the 21st. Did we settle the whole what to do after April, after spring break? Not until next meeting.
Oh, you know what? Yes, we did. And I need to add April 18th onto this.
We're canceling spring break, Tim. You got to work through it. Just kidding, everyone.
So I just added the April 18th date on. That was the only real other addition. So on the 18th, we have to have approved our budget and the property tax report card. So it can be submitted to the property tax.
Yeah, there was a deadline for some tax stuff that we gotta take care of. So we won't make you come in on spring break, but right after. To shake off the vacation fuzzies, you know. Everyone, I'm sure will be freshly sunburned and, right?
Right from our pasty white skin.
Or at least my skin. Adirondackers don't tan, that's for sure. All right, old agenda topics. Okay, new agenda topics. I think, Tim, in the information for the board, we had talked, there was the,
Exemption.
thank you. So we want to create a new agenda topic for that for next time to discuss.
I think that would be a good opportunity for the board to have a dialogue about the two exemptions that are on the table.
I just see, you think there will be some more like concrete numbers and stuff like that on,
I hope. Some of them, it's going to be more challenging to know the veterans. I don't know that we're going to get clear numbers on that, but we should have a pretty clear idea by reaching out to the local fire and rescue squads, their membership, to get a sense of who could be a prospective exemption in that instance.
okay. So we'll add that to the next meeting. If I have any other agenda items. All right. Moving to the adjournment phase of the meeting, everyone's favorite part. Recommended action is to adjourn the meeting at 6:55 PM. Have a motion.
Good meeting.
I'll take that as a motion for
Yes.
Ron. Second, Joan, thank you. Second, everyone in favor? Aye.
Mark it unanimous.
There you go. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. Good meeting, Dan. Good meeting. So let me ask you, this exemptions.
Well, hold on, we're still live.
Oh, we are. I didn't know.
Yeah.
Okay.